right. Got done a couple days ago, and I made a video called "Let's Talk About Latin Freestyle Music," and I got just wanted to make another video similar to that, talking about Italo disco music, 80's Italo disco. Of course, that's Italian disco music, and that's from the 1980s. Um, Very cool dance music genre. It's one of my favorite styles of dance music. Um, so, Italo disco is a music genre which originated in Italy, of course, in the late 1970s and was mainly produced in the 1980s. Italo disco evolved from the then current underground disco, pop, and electronic music, both domestic and foreign, including high energy and Eurodisco, and developed into a diverse genre. The genre employs electronic drums, drum machines, synthesizers, and occasionally vocoders. It is usually sung in English and to a lesser extent in Italian and Spanish. The origin of the genre's name is strongly tied to marketing efforts of the ZYX record label, which began licensing and marketing the music outside of Italy in 1982. Italo disco faded in the early 1990s, then split into many genres like Eurobeat, Eurodance, or Eurobeat, Italo house, and Italo dance. Those are all really good too. Have to do a separate video on those. The term Italo is a generic prefix meaning Italian. Yeah. Let's see. It had been used on pop music compilation albums in West Germany as early as 1978, such as Italo Top Hits on the K-Tel label. Okay. And the first volume of Italo Super Hits on the Areola label. Huh. There is no documentation of where the term Italo disco first appeared, but its origins are generally traced to Italian and other European disco recordings released in the West German market. Examples include the phrase "original Italo disco" on the sleeve of the West German edition of "Girls on Me" by Amen Peck in 1982, and the 1983 compilation album "The Best of Italo Disco." Okay. Well, so early 80s probably is when that term first appeared. That's what I would say. These records, along with the Italo Boot Mix Megamix, were released by Bernard Mikulski on his ZYX label, who was therefore credited with coining the term Italo disco. The Best of and Boot Mix compilations each became a 16-volume series that culminated in 1991. Wow. Both series primarily featured disco music of Italian origin, often licensed from independent Italian labels, which had limited distribution outside of Italy, as well as songs in a similar style by other European artists. So the origins. So, okay. So Italo disco originated in Europe in the late 1970s. After Disco Demolition Night in 1979, American interest in disco sharply declined, whereas in Europe the genre maintained mainstream popularity and survived into the 1980s. The adoption of synthesizers and other electronic instruments by disco artists led to electronic dance music, which spawned many subgenres such as high energy in America, while high energy in America and space disco in Europe. Italo disco's influences include Italian producer Giorgio Moroder, of course, French musician Didier Marouani. I don't know that musician. Italo French drummer Cerrone. I know him. And the San Francisco based high energy producer Patrick Cowley, who worked with singers like Sylvester and Paul Parker. Of course, I know them. Of course, in 1979, there's Jacques Fred Petro and Mauro Malavasi. They created the post-disco groups Change and the B&Q Band. In 1981, both groups gained U.S. R&B and dance hits with Paradise and On the Beat, respectively. Of course, Jacques Fred Petro, Mauro Malavasi. Now, Mauro Malavasi, yeah, their sound is similar to Italo disco. In fact, Mauro Malavasi did do some Italo disco, I believe. So Italo disco often features electronic sounds, electronic drums, drum machines, catchy melodies, vocoders, overdubs, and heavily accented English lyrics. Yes. By 1983, Italo disco's instrumentation was predominantly electronic, along with Love. Italo disco themes deal with robots in space, sometimes combining all three in songs like Robot is Systematic from 1982. That's by Electric Workers. I don't remember how that goes. And, of course, I know this one, though. Spacer Woman by Charlie, 1983. That's one of my favorite ones. And let's see. In 1983, there were frequent hit singles. Labels such as American Disco, Crash, Mirac, Sensation, and X Energy appeared. The popular label Disco Magic Records released more than 30 singles within the year. It was also the year that the term Italo disco became widely known outside of Italy. With the release of the first volumes of the Best of Italo Disco compilation series on the West German record label ZYX. After 1983, Italo disco was also produced outside of Italy. Although Italo disco was successful in mainland Europe during the 1980s, only a few singles reached the UK charts, such as Ryan Paris's Dolce Vita, Laura Branigan's Self Control. Now that's just that was popular in the States, though. I wouldn't call that Italo disco, though. Well, I wouldn't call it that. Baltimore's Tarzan Boy, Spagna's Call Me, and Sabrina's Boys, all of which were top 5 hits. I think Sabrina's Boys is going to be a top 5 no matter where, for obvious reasons. Um, and not because it's good, but because of other reasons. Oh my gosh. Not that she's a bad singer. It's just all of which were top five hits. Italo disco maintained a an influence in the UK's underground music scenes in the UK, and its impact can be heard in the music of several British electronic acts. That yeah, that's true, such as Pet Shop Boys, Eraser and New Order. Right, right, right. There's definitely an influence there. Now, derivative styles. This is where it gets interesting here. Canada, particularly Quebec or Montreal, produced several remarkable Italo disco acts, including. Now these aren't actually Italo disco acts though. These these are Canadian disco acts, but the sound is similar, including Trans X, who did the song "Living on Video," um, Lime, which did great songs like "Angel Eyes" and "Guilty" and a lot of other really good songs. Um, Rational Love. Um, Rational Youth, City of Night. Actually, never heard that song before. Pluton and the Humanoids World Invaders, Purple Flash, who did like We Can Make It, and Taps, who did Forbidden Lover. Now they're from Toronto though, so that's not from Montreal. The others are though, I believe. Those productions were called Canadian disco during 1980 to 1984 and beyond in Europe, and high energy disco in the US. Right. Right. Okay, so in English speaking countries, it was called Italo disco and high energy. In Mexico, the style is known just as disco, having nothing to do with the 1970s genre. West German productions were sung in English and were characterized by an emphasis on melody, exaggerated production, and a more earnest approach to the themes of love. Examples may be found in the works of Modern Talking. Was never really into them. Fancy. I like Fancy. Grant Miller. Never really listened to that act. Bad Boys Blue. They're good. Joy, which is Joy. I'm not sure. I know I've heard some songs from them. Silent Circle, they're good. The Twins are really good. Leanne Ross is good. CC Catch, Blue System, and London Boys. And they also forgot to mention Sandra, who's huge in Germany. Is that like not a West German production? Like it gotta be. But yeah, you gotta mention Sandra if we're doing like Euro disco here. Now, the German productions are called Euro disco, not Italo disco. During the mid 1980s, space synth, a derivation of Italo disco, developed. It was mostly instrumental, featured space sounds, and was exemplified by musicians such as Koto, Proxian, Rofo. Rofo did space disco music? He's more of a Euro disco act. And that's from, like, Belgium. Cyber People, Hypnosis, Laser Dance, and Mike Marine. Of those, I like, um, I think Cyber People and Koto. As Italo disco declined in Europe, Italian and West German producers adapted the sound to Japanese tastes, creating Eurobeat. So Eurobeat started in the very late 80s. Music produced in this style is sold exclusively in Japan due to the country's para culture. What's that? Para is a synchronized dance that originated in Japan. Okay. All right. Produced by Italian producers for the Japanese market. The two most famous Eurobeat labels are A Beat C Records and Time Records. Oh, those are good record labels. One traditional Italo disco label, Sci-Fam, still produces Eurobeat music for Japan. Wow. Around 1989 in Italy, Italo disco evolved into Italo house. Right. When Italo disco artists experimented with harder beats and the house sound. I just want to say a little bit about that. Italo house, though, is its own thing. It's very unique too, and a lot of it still sounds a little bit like Italo disco. Like it's its own unique sound of house music. Um, a lot of it fuses like house and Italo disco together, but it's a very, I love Italo house just as much as I love Italo disco. So I love 80s music and I love 90s. I love 80s and 90s dance music pretty much equally. Then it's got a section on space disco. Uh, I don't think we have to go over that. I mean, that's a little bit different, isn't it? It's related though. It's certainly related. Songs like "Automatic Lover" by Dee Dee Jackson. That's 1978. Good song, by the way. Um, the other ones I'm not. I don't know. Um, Space Disco is fine. Um, so then we get into, well, the last part here is post disco and house music. Um, New York City based post disco. Now, post disco, of course, is the disco sounding music after 1979. So they just call it post disco, but it's like disco, but it's like, you know, just more 80s sounding, you know. There's a little bit more electronic sounds in there. Maybe a little more funk, you know, like a little more electro funk, electronic. But like it's still disco though. It's just an evolved later form of it, you know. Let's call it like post disco, or I hear the term also boogie, which is fine. I mean, you know, I don't mind calling it like post disco or whatever. I mean, that is what it is. I mean, it's better than just a generic term like dance music. I like to call something a little bit more than just. I mean, it's its own style, so it's more than just generic dance music. I mean, I'm talking specifically about American post disco after 1979. So, um, New York City based post disco record label Emergency Records specialized in reissuing and selling records from Italy since the 1970s. Since the 1970s. So, um, let's see here. Kano is noted for incorporating American musical elements like heavy funk influences, breakbeat rhythm, the use of vocoder with electronic music, while using rudimentary synthesizers, constituting one of the earliest forms of Italo disco. This form of Americanized Italo disco that also includes Klein and MBO, I had never listened to that act, re entered the States and was known to be influential on the development of house music. Doctor's Cat and their song Feel the Drive likewise was, let's see, Doctor's Cat, their most well known song is Feel the Drive. That's one of my favorite songs too. Likewise was one of the earliest house music songs. Well, I definitely no. I definitely wouldn't consider that a house music song. That is an Italo disco song. Anyway, and I think that about wraps it up here. See if there's anything else that I can add. But yeah. So now I'll go over some of my favorite Italo disco songs just off the top of my head, and then we can wrap up the video. And I'll do more of these videos, like this style of video in the near future. I want to do one on like other styles that I like Italo house, Canadian disco, Euro disco, things like that. And as I said, I did one on Latin freestyle as well. Maybe I'll do some post disco. I'll do a post disco video too. So some of my favorite Italo disco songs. Okay, so I have a lot, and I did do a couple videos on Italo disco. I did a top 10 video and then another top 10 video listing. So I got listing a lot of my top favorite songs. Let's see. So, Feel the Drive by Doctor's Cat, we mentioned that, and Spacer Woman by Charlie. Those are both really good. Hypnotic Tango by My Mine is really good. It's So Easy by Valerie Dory, or Valerie Dore, however you pronounce that. And let's see, there's a ton. Let's see, but Comet by DX. Love that song. Of course, Hold Me Tight by Katie Gray. Kiss Her by Jane Hill. It's actually a British singer that sings that song, Jane Hill. I believe she's British. Of course, anything by Dan Harrow, like most of the Dan Harrow's 80s singles are really, really good. Like, let's see, there's Catch the Fox, there's, what is it, Don't Break My Heart, Mad Desire, Future Brain, like there's so many good ones. Energy Rain, Bad Boy is a good one. Take Me Back, I think that's a good one. There's an American singer that sings on a number of them, and who's really good. What's his name? Tom Hooker. And then I think Silver Pozzoli sings on one of the early records. I think that's Mad Desire. That's a really good. They're all really good. Then there's some other vocalists that they sound very similar to each other. Um, Silver Pizzoli doesn't, but I mean the other ones do. It sounds similar, kind of similar to Tom Hooker. Let's see. So Den Haro. Then there's Gazebo. Um, Made some really good songs like Masterpiece, Lunatic. Uh, I like Choppin', and there's another one that is really good. I can't think of the name of it. Um, don't know too much about his later songs, but like the early '80s songs are really good. Like 82, 83, around in that area, 84. Um, let's see. Just going off the top of my head. I like Serenade by Shaw. That's a pretty song. A very pretty song. And as I mentioned before, like Italo disco, um, I have a strict definition for that. So it's strictly from Italy, music from Italy, dance music from Italy in the 1980s. From other parts of Europe, I call Eurodisco, or I'll just do like the name of the country. So German disco, French disco, Spanish disco, but that's Eurodisco. I mean, I guess you could all. I guess okay. So I guess you could say it's all Eurodisco since it's from Europe, and then you could go by country. That might be actually a better way of doing it. Of going about that actually, but there's like the Belgian disco's good. Of course, in the UK in Britain, it's they had their own version of high energy style music. Um, some good stuff there too. Don't like it. Well, there's definitely some things I like from there. Yeah. Um, but that topic could be for another video. Um, let's see. So back to some favorite songs, favorite acts. There's so much. I already named a couple really good ones. I'll name a couple more though. Uh, let's see. What's that song called? "Waiting for the Heaven" or "Waiting for Heaven" by Diviaci is good. Yeah, they're called Diviaci. Oh gosh, what's another like really really good one? There's so many. Um, just going off the top of my head here. Um, Getting a little tired too. It's late, 1 in the morning, so I'm wearing down a little bit, but um, but I mean, I love doing these. I love doing these. Talking about the music that I love. Um, uh, yeah, I think I'm drawing a blank right now. Probably time. It's probably just time to turn in. But great music. I love Italo disco. Um, and maybe I'll do Italo house next because I love that just as much. Maybe I'll do that one next for my next like music related video. Um, so yeah, Italo disco is really fun electronic dance, retro dance music from the 1980s. Um, I would love to hear from more fans of it out there. Do you love it as much as I do? um, it's just fun. It's really fun. It's really quirky. A lot of it, but it's really fun. It's sound. The electronics sounds sounds in the music and the music is like really really high quality. Um, oh yeah, another song, Roxana in Your Eyes by Roxana is a really good one too. Just remember that one. Okay, so I'll wrap it up now. Let me know in the comments um, below your thoughts about Italo Disco. Anything that you would like to add. Let me know your favorite artists and acts from the 1980s. Um, Italo Disco, Euro Disco. I'd love to know all of that. And I'll be back with another music related video here soon.